welcome back to another edition of Thunderdome Metal Reviews. Tonight, we are going to be speaking about my pick for the month of February, an album released therein. I am the Reverend Dangerously, if you do not know, and with me are my boon companions and compatriots, the Dr. David Pizzo, the Chicken Slaughter Tracy Newport, and the owner of the Murder Basement Strip Club, Gabe Cooper. Everyone, how are you doing tonight?
Cheers.
Working on my VIP status to the Murder Basement Strip Club.
I'm more grandiose by the minute right here.
Dude, I got velvet ropes at Gabe's basement. So if you get in there, Tracy, let me know how.
Hey man, if you're not dressed right, you're just gonna get sent home.
No, they took one look at my shoes and were like, nope, hard pass.
Your shoes that match your belt.
I mean,
Yeah. So, and we are here, as I said, to speak about my pick for an album that came out this month with this really disturbing album cover that is too reflective of too many places in the world at the moment for us to truly get into and honor. It is Venom Prison's Erebos, released on the 4th day of February in 2022. It is their 4th studio album. This is their first on a major label, if you consider Century Media Records a major label. It was produced by Scott Atkins. It has a runtime of 48 minutes and 59 seconds. The band is Ash Gray on guitars, Larissa Stupar on vocals, Mike Jeffries on bass, Ben Thomas on guitars, and Joe Bills on drums.
For metal, that's a real label. That's my opinion.
True.
For metal, that is definitely a real label. And I would love to hear why you picked this band.
Honestly, again, that part of it is that I needed an album that came out this month. But unlike last month, I'd actually heard one of these tracks and thought it was awesome and did not know of this band. So one good track was enough to select the album. And I'm actually pretty happy that I did.
I'm glad you picked this album because I got on the ride for these guys on their 2019 album, Samsara. And that was one I'd heard their 2020 album, Primeval. But their Samsara album was one of the most brutal albums I think I've ever heard, where I feel like I've been wrung through a ringer after listening to it. And so I was really looking forward to see how this album came out.
How are they different? Because I read something that sort of aligns with what you're saying. It was, what do you see as having changed? Because I did not get time
So
to or back catalog.
There's no clean vocals on Samsara. That thing is just fucking brutal from start to finish. It's like you feel like you've been rang through like an old washing machine wringer after you listen to it. It's nonstop pummeling from the first track to the end. All 41 minutes of it, just looking at the time for it. But it's a fucking banger. It's a really good album. It's something that it's not quite to Portal of Val level of makes you uncomfortable listening to it, but it's you feel while listening to it.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing. I was thinking about that. The rubric says C+. Just that whole discussion between me and Ben.
That was priceless. I loved it.
We have to go by the rubric or we will get sued. Anyway, yes. This is definitely designed to make you uncomfortable in a way. Convergent evolution uncomfortable. I think it's for different reasons. I think this cover tells you why they want you to be uncomfortable.
Yeah, they didn't actually make this, I don't feel, hard to listen to in the same way as just the chaotic noise merchants that Portals of Val was. This is much more of a content, what we're singing about, what these songs are about, what the lyrical content is about, is meant to make you uncomfortable because the music, although I like it, isn't really that far from standard death or with elements of hardcore mixed into it. And I have not listened to the earlier albums, as I said, unlike Tracy, but I did see, and I think David, you kind of alluded to having seen some of the same stuff. There were two camps in people talking about this album. There was the one camp that's like, oh, this is just the same stuff as their last album, now just on a bigger label. They didn't do anything. Or a second camp that like really took them to task because, God forbid, they have clean singing on a metal album,
Indeed. They sort of can't win.
I think this album incorporates a broader like genre stylings than Samsara did. That one was much more deathcore, almost in the sense of just straight pummeling. It had just a little top, like it was, oh god, Pig Destroyer esque in its sound. It's like what I'd probably liken it to. And this one, and they started the turn on Primeval. And this one, I think they polished the sound from Primeval, made it in a sense more accessible, and they did kind of up the hardcoreness about it, while kind of adding a little bit more accessibility to it.
I have feelings about that, but I think Gabe should share his feelings.
Yeah, I was gonna weigh in as someone who hasn't heard anything of this band except for this record, and call me crazy, but the note that kept coming back and hitting me from listening to it was that this sounds a lot to me like the Children of Bottom albums that I dig, and that's mainly due to the sort of guitar melody lines and some of the more melodic moments on the album. Which is not a bad thing at all. I thought it was pretty enjoyable. And also, I mean, I think they do have some clean singing, and I don't have a problem with that. I do like that it's proper heavy. It's good. And I didn't pay so much attention to the content, but I think some of the song titles are pretty cool, and also hint at what's inside. So that's interesting. I think one of my favorite titles on this is Comfort of Complicity. And obviously being complicit is in many situations interpreted as not very good. But there's comfort in it.
That song will haunt me to my death. Like, I have mixed feelings about some of the rest of this content. That won't surprise you. I'm not hardcore's biggest booster or fan. I'm like, just stop breaking down. Like, I know, here's a breakdown for you. You've totally killed the momentum here, but it is haunting as fuck. That song I'm obsessed with. I'm not sure any of the other songs are quite as good as it is, but they all have elements of what makes it so good. I mean, the politics are caustic and horrifying and important. The metal, like when the death metal comes, it's good. It's well mixed. The drums are very respectable. I agree with the Children of Bottom. That sort of up and down stuff happens a ton on here. The more I listened to it, the more I liked it. But as always, there are moments where it's like, are we still doing this? Where we've broken down. The machine is broken down. And I know they would probably argue, I don't know if Fandom's effect. I got a little bit of Code Orange. I did not get that mad. I powered through, y'all. I sacrificed. I'm like, I'm on the treadmill, and we're not doing the tempo we're supposed to be doing anymore. And I overcame, because not all heroes wear capes. But
all of them
it's got a lot going for it. Right. Just get caught in it. Ground up. This picture, this cover, by the way, I want to reiterate, double down, agree, is absolutely horrifying and reflective of way too much shit.
Yeah,
one can.
I meant to look up and see what the painting actually is, but I forgot to do so. But I agree with most of what David said. I was here for the hardcore a little more than he was. I also really like the fact that this is a very political album, but they kind of disguise it just a smidgen by making allegories to Greek mythology. And so I appreciated that, even though I don't mind it being right up in your face. I can understand, given that the singer is from Russia, you have to sometimes occlude your message a little bit. But yeah, the melodies on the guitars, I agree with Gabe. I didn't think of Children of Bottom until he said that, but I can definitely see that influence there. But I was there for that because I, being a Maiden fan and fans of that style of metal, I like melodic guitar lines.
Yeah, and they do a really good job with the melodic guitar lines, and I think that overall they have grown significantly as songwriters. Go ahead.
I was simply going to say that this was produced custom for them by longtime collaborator Eleanor Contour, I guess. So it's an Iron Maiden type relationship. They're the one artist all the way up until Somewhere in Time, I guess. So it's one of those type situations. I
So it's
think.
probably
Okay.
the same artist that did their Samsara
Yes, most
Yeah.
likely.
cover.
So this is a long-standing artistic relationship. I want to hit on that, just emphasize a tiny bit, not to make it about nationality, but she is Russian. She lives in Wales. She left the country, as Tracy often implies, and I'm sure he's correct, because she was Antifa. She was Aunt and Uncle Tifa and had to get the hell out of there. But this is a shitty time to be Russian, really, anywhere. And Ukrainian, obviously. So there's like that whole thing going on with her. And she's just so uncompromisingly angry at the patriarchy in a way that video you showed us, Ben, fuck.
Yeah.
That song, again, not to, triple down on Comfort of Complicity, but holy fuck. I'm like, because there was one time when I was listening on random and that was followed with, I'm not, oh man. Like that was still on my playlist. I'm like, ah, shit. Oh, shit. Shut the fuck up. Henry, I love you, man, but you have to stop talking. Like the contrast between those songs was extreme and painful to me.
Yeah. I guess we can go ahead and transition into songs unless anybody has something else they want to say. The only thing I would add before that is, in agreeing that this is an incredibly well produced, I liked the leveling of everything. Everything was very easy to hear. Everything was very easy to understand. And I guess since I picked it, I'm going to have to go. I hope everybody has their drinks in hand because I kind of like them all. I think Born from Chaos is a really good opener, and Technologies of Death, I think, is a great closer. I also love Comfort of Complicity, but Pain of Oasis, or however that is pronounced, I thought that's where she really deploys the clean singing, and I was blown away by it. And just a really cool song.
I was like, anyone, I'll go. I like most of these tracks too. I wasn't as enamored maybe with the opening track, but Judge's Underworld is tight. That song is awesome. That whole run of it into Pain of Oasis is fantastic. I think the rest of those tracks are fine, maybe not quite as strong as that. Again, as I said, Comfort of Complicity is just so fucking good, and part of it is I have that visual art. I think this is a band that we've debated this. Like, is it just, if it's reliant on the visual art that goes with it, do you penalize them for that? I don't know. But anyway, I thought the visual for that really sort of emblazoned that in my mind. I think Veil of Night is quite good. Gorgon Sisters is good, even though it has a ton of fucking breakdowns. And I agree with you, the closer's quite good. The more I listen to this, more I like this album. There was no tracks I ever skipped, and I think like 2/3 of them ended up on my playlist, which is how they and Henry Rollins were cohabitating. It's me and Tracy do that dirty playlist shit.
That's always a fun cohabitation.
Oops.
I guess I'll go next. I think it starts off with Born from Chaos, and I think from Born from Chaos to Pain of Oasis is a fantastic 1 through 5 combination. I do think it kind of falls off until the final track with Technologies of Death. I think it really picks up there with the closer as well. And this, agree with you guys, this album did improve, I think, on listening. It's got a bit of a earwormness to it, catchability to it. The more you listen to it, I think also comes into play. I do want to say, I don't know if you guys picked up on it, but Nemesis, part of their chorus, also it hit me with, I was like, this song sounds familiar. And apparently I'm not the damaged one. They say it in the same phrasings and like pacing as the Blister Exists does for Slipknot. And so every time I heard Nemesis, my mind went to that track as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. I didn't hear that, but that's not surprising because I'm not.
I mean, I've been
necessarily
listening to
the lyrics
album,
guy.
I've been listening to Blister Exists for 16 years now, so that's part of it as well.
Who Tracy is as a person.
Yeah, sure. So I think that this album kind of dips a little bit in the middle for me, and I think the true opener is Judges of the Underworld. It's really great. I like the Judges of the Underworld through Comfort of Complicity run. I think that Pain of Oasis just slows everything down. I mean, her vocals are beautiful, but it doesn't exactly fit for me. And in that way, the album is kind of divided up in half. And I think that the second half is sort of stronger because I like Castigated in Steel and Concrete through Veil of Night quite a bit. Like, I think those are pretty awesome tracks. And they're sort of a little bit stronger than the first half because the first track and Pain of Oasis, those are not maybe the best uses of their time on a 10-track record. No, I mean, I think the last track is okay. I think Technology is Death is okay, but it's not anywhere near as good as, say, Judges of the Underworld or Gorgon Sisters or something like that. I think there's kind of an unevenness to it. But that said, I think that the strong moments are really strong. And again, the kind of the echoes of Children of Bottom really did it for me.
I was an easy mark for this because I'm the one who's like Infected Rain is a good idea, so
Oh,
obviously
yeah, I can
I'm
see
in the
that.
same neighborhood as this, and I
Yes.
like, as I will admit, if Tracy's wife asked, Evanescence, right? Like that's a thing that is a time I can have with Tracy and his spouse that doesn't involve us being killed. And
Indeed.
so there were strong Evanescence vibes at moments, and I was here for it. I'm like, okay, it's just you clearly know what they're doing, even if I don't always like the experiment, the hardcore death metal experiment. I get it, so it's good shit, man. Well done, and well done
Thank
to
you.
them.
Yeah. Time to grade this thing. I am going to give it an A-. I do think that it is a great album. I think that there is enough nuance in this album that it rewards going back and listening to it again and again in a way that some other albums from this week may not have, but we'll get to that. And I did not find myself to be as much of a fan of Infected Rain, but this cleaves very close to the My Ruin channel that runs through my heart, and just big fan. I will definitely be listening to their other albums.
I'll jump in and say that this is, for me, it's kind of on the border between A- and B+. So maybe like an 89.5, something like that. It's really great. It does reward repeated listens. However, not all the tracks get me, and some of those tracks repeat. The tracks that I don't get repeat on the times that I listen to it. But anyway, pretty excellent.
I'm gonna say this is an excellent album. I think it's a solid B+ at worst. It'll probably grow on me more or less as the year goes on. It's definitely going to be something I'll come back to by the end of the year.
I'm going to come in, I guess, at a B+, so just a hair under Gabe, because I love the lyrics of it. The fourth track, as I said, is absolutely amazing. But I didn't go to Boston public schools, so all this you get a breakdown, it's just
It's so hilarious that I didn't even notice that stuff. It just kind of like washed over me.
Well, I mean, you're like a fish in
it just
water.
goes to show you. I mean, I was brainwashed.
How do you talk about breakdowns in hardcore, Gabe, when you live in it?
He just lives it, because Code Orange was so painful to me. You were like, oh, it's whatever. Like, no, dude, I didn't go to Boston public schools. So, but that being said, it is absolutely an excellent album, and I can imagine it creeping up into that A- territory. But I think I liked Infected Rain just a wee bit more because it didn't groove kill me.
Sure.
Speaking
I
of groove,
well, I would buy this. So
true.
Oh yeah, me too. This is cool.
Yeah,
that
definitely buy
cover,
it.
man. That
Yeah.
that record. Anyway, yeah, definitely.
I'd probably buy it.
But this has a Thunderdome aggregate of 89 as well.
nice.
Tight. That makes sense.
And as you were saying, Tracy, speaking of groove,
Speaking of groove, we're bringing you guys for our next album. If you ever wondered what would happen if Corpse Grinder were his own man band, how would that sound?
well, technically, this is his second time that he's had a one-man band with the name Corpse
Yes.
Grinder.
The other one was in Baltimore, where he's from, and that entry was like, "Don't even worry about that." It was like a different experiment, but I'd never heard it. So Tracy, I have
not heard that one either. So yeah, but
Yeah, I haven't heard it either. So this is a fresh experience to all. So what happens if you give Corpse Grinder the reins to
I
do
will
as he
say
pleases?
this album cover.
exactly. I was going to say this album cover encapsulates the essence of this album so perfectly.
It does.
He's the one killing the zombies. Yeah,
Yeah.
beating them to death with one another.
Let's join us next time for the awesomeness of George Corpse Grinder Fisher on Thunderdome Metal Reviews.